good morning, everyone. Welcome. We're just giving people a few more minutes to file in, but I think most of everyone that's registered has arrived. I'm Jill Talladay. I'm the founder and director of Care for the Cape and Islands, and I'd like to welcome you to Care About a Clean Cape and Islands, changing behaviors, changing the game, and adjusting the single-use water bottle ban. Today's webinar is a continuation of the webinar that we held in February, and it's to address the upcoming implementation of new bylaws restricting the commercial sale of single-use water bottles in many of the Cape towns that will take effect in September. Our goal is to provide you with some practical and useful information that you can implement in your business and in your communities. Today's event is hosted by the Cape Cod Stewardship Collaborative, which is comprised of Care for the Cape and Islands, Cape Cod Anti-Litter Coalition, and the Cape Center for Coastal Studies. If you have any questions, we're going to hear from the panelists first, and then we would like to hear your questions. Meg Morris, the president of the Cape Cod Anti-Litter Coalition, is going to be monitoring the chat box, so feel free to send those into the chat. Now it's my pleasure to turn things over to Teresa Martin, who is the Executive Director of Lower Cape TV and the editor of Lower Cape News, and she's going to be our moderator today's discussion. So take it away, Teresa.
Hi, everyone. It's great to have people together this morning, even if we are virtual. This is Teresa Martin from Lower Cape TV, and I am delighted to be part of the second in this series of a topic that is going to be very, very real to us here on the Cape, and the ongoing conversation about plastic bottles and obviously Cape Cod. A lot of people seem to be surprised by this, and it's fascinating to me when I talk to people, when I say, you know, in September or December, depending on your location, single-use plastic bottles won't be available on the Cape. And I get a lot of blank looks, but it's real, it's happening. It is going to be our reality. And it's really wonderful to have a group of people who have been doing all the work up front, getting ready for this, or who have already been encountering it. So today we're not here to focus on the pros and cons of these bylaws that are going to be going into effect, because as I said, that boat has sailed, that's a done deal. We're going to focus on the ways our businesses and our communities have dealt with it or are making plans to deal with it. It's kind of where the rubber meets the road perspective today. So with us as panelists, we have Mary Chafee, who's with the Select Board in Brewster. And Brewster is in the process of doing some really interesting, significant initiatives to reach out to both residents and visitors. Jesse Meckling, on his day job, he works with environmental issues all the time at the Center for Coastal Studies. But wearing his other hat, like all of us here in the Cape, he also manages a small family seasonal rental property. And he's going to share some insights on how individuals and small-scale owners can respond to this. Bettina Lant, she's from the renowned White Elephant on Nantucket, a wonderful place. And in Nantucket, this post-plastic reality has already rolled out. And so she's going to share some insights into what they've actually been able to do there and how people have been responding. And then we're going to wrap up with Annie Blatz from the Cape Cod and Islands Association of Realtors, where planning is underway to educate the large influx of seasonal home renters about all of these changes. So it's going to be a great, exciting panelist that looks at this from a lot of different lenses. But before we begin, I know there's a lot of people with different backgrounds out there. And Jill, we're going to do a little poll, right, to see who's here to make sure that we're addressing people's concerns. Okay, with that said, I'm going to turn it on over to Mary. Take it away.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mary Chafee, Chair of the Brewster Select Board and the Select Board Liaison to our Recycling Commission and our Water Commissioners. I'm pleased to have the opportunity this morning to talk about Drink Brewster Tap. Brewster, as you may know, has a long track record of environmental and water quality advocacy. We've preserved about a third of the town as open space, including land around our public water wells, and that's had a direct impact on the excellent quality of our public water supply. Next, please. 2 years ago, in very short order, the town of Brewster passed 3 policies that regulated the use of disposable plastic water bottles. In September 2019, the Brewster Select Board passed a policy that was then mirrored in a town bylaw 2 months later that prohibited the municipal purchase of beverages in single-use plastic containers. And then at our fall 2020 town meeting, Brewster voters passed the commercial water bottle ban that will be effective in September 2021. When we adopted these policies, we recognized that you can't take something away from people without offering them an alternative. And that was the stimulus for what would become a three-pronged town project. Next, please. The Brewster Select Board asked the Recycling Commission to lead the town's hydration station project. And this project is aimed at making it easy for the public to access municipal tap water instead of needing to purchase disposable water products. And the hydration station project actually has three parts. It includes installing combination water bottle filling stations and bubblers for both indoor and outdoor use, and providing reusable water bottles. The water bottles, the hydration stations, and our really high quality municipal water supply are the physical part of the project. And then Drink Brewster Tap is the inspirational and the educational component. Drink Brewster Tap is a collaboration of the Recycling Commission and the Water Commissioners in Brewster. And its goal is to encourage people to drink tap water and avoid purchasing disposable water containers. So to achieve this, Brewster distributed messaging about tap water through the town's website and social media and traditional media, our town local television station. And there were three categories of Drink Brewster Tap messages. The first group were short creative messages like the top graphic shown here. Rethink your drink. Some of the other short messages were things like, drink up, we'll make more, and Brewster Tap, ask for it by name. The second group of messages were educational ones, like the lower graphic that you see on this slide. This one displays information about the costs of tap water compared to commercially packaged water. Thank you. And this shows you the third category of Drink Brewster Tap messaging. And this was all about role modeling messages. So these messages combined two important elements. They were photographs of notable Brewster residents or Brewster residents with interesting backgrounds, raising a glass or raising a bottle of Brewster tap water. And the photographs were paired with a simple statement, either I choose Brewster Tap or we choose Brewster Tap. And the participants included a wide range of Brewster residents, including one of our state representatives, our current and past town administrators, notable authors, an Olympic hopeful, an artist, a meteorologist, children, and others. And what was really interesting about this process was that the people who were invited to take part, to be photographed, were so enthusiastic. They were delighted to take part in this initiative. So about 40 Drink Brewster Tap messages were created and deployed. 1 or 2 messages appeared each week on the Brewster Town website, social media, and local TV, and they ran for almost 6 months. And the program was covered by the Cape Cod Times. So there was a steady stream of messages that were fun and interesting, but they had a serious purpose to remind people of the benefits and the value of drinking tap water. And the messaging really celebrates Brewster's award-winning public water supply, something that we value highly. So Drink Brewster Tap tapped into, no pun intended, our community pride in our public water supply. And the Drink Brewster Tap initiative is aligned with Brewster's vision plan, which sets out our most important community goals, one of which is protecting and preserving our high quality drinking water. And a montage of Drink Brewster Tap photos appeared on the cover of our 2019 Brewster Town Report. So COVID did delay our hydration station project, but it will be relaunched as soon as it's feasible this year. And I wanted to close with a couple of photos. The Brewster Whitecaps, our Cape Cod Baseball League team, who will be playing this summer, has just debuted their new reusable water bottle that sports their logo on one side and the message "Drink Brewster Tap" on the reverse. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. That was a great overview. Before we move on, I actually want to ask you one question that I know a lot of people have, and I know you're perfect to address this. I have a family member that I won't name, except let's just say she gave birth to me, and she is insistent, no matter what I say, that bottled water is safer. And no matter what I do and tell her about municipal water, I can't get through to her. How do you address that? Because that seems to be a really big question for all of our towns.
That's an important question, and there's a very easy answer to it. Bottled water is less regulated than municipal water supplies that must comply with both federal and state regulations. So the water that comes out of your tap is more highly tested and reported, and the test results are made available publicly. Any testing that's done on commercial products, there's no requirement that it's reported publicly.
So tap water, to make really clear, is a wonderful, safe, and good tasting option. That's cool. All right, I don't want to derail with questions. Let's move on to Jesse Meckling. Jesse, are you there? Are you ready to take it away?
I am, yes. Thanks, Teresa. As Teresa mentioned, my name's Jesse Meckling, and she mentioned during my day job, I'm the education director at the Center for Coastal Studies nonprofit in Provincetown, and one of the collaborators on these seminars with Care for the Cape Cod Islands and the Cape Cod Anti-Litter Coalition. And but today I'm here to talk in another role, which is a property manager for a family home that's been in our family for a long time. My uncle's getting a bit older, and so for the past couple of years, we've actually been renting the property out. It is in New Orleans, and so today I just wanted to talk a little bit from the sort of property rental management side about what we can do, what we do already, what I've noticed. One of the things I work with plastics, I've been doing cleanups on the Cape for a very long time. I do a lot of education on marine plastics, what's coming into our environment. And with our property, in order to save money, we do all the cleaning and the garbage removal ourselves. So we don't pay a company to come and take everything away. And there goes my phone. So I have seen over the past 3 years, the amount that is produced, what people produce when they come to the Cape on vacation. What I can say is there is a lot of drinking that goes on when people come on vacation, both kinds. It's actually quite shocking, but the water in particular is the amount of water bottles that I have taken to be recycled is sometimes overwhelming. We have a 4-bedroom house. I don't know how many people sometimes actually stay there. It's limited to 9 people, but who knows how many people actually stay there. But I've taken contractor bags full of plastic water, single-use plastic water bottles from the house after 1 week. Literally, I've taken 2 contractor bags of single-use. I've never counted them, but it would count over the couple of years into thousands of single-use plastic water bottles. So that the house is in New Orleans, which did pass the commercial ban starting in 2020. They also have the municipal ban. So one of the things that we do at our house is we have a welcome packet for folks. We try to use green products in cleaning because we use that ourselves, and we want that to our guests to use that. So when we clean the house, it's all ecologically friendly products. And in our welcome packet, we let people know about the products we use. We actually let them know about the recycling and how they can recycle. And most people are pretty good about that because I actually live in Eastham, so I have to take It's not a throw everything in one box. We actually have to separate it out. And so I ask our renters to do the same, and most are pretty good, but if they don't, then I have that task of doing it Saturday morning. We also provide these reusable bags, although last summer, which came from We Need a Vacation, which is one of the companies that we advertise our home. Last summer during COVID, we weren't able to use those bags because supermarkets weren't allowing bringing your own bags. But hopefully this summer again, folks can use those. So those stay at the house. Folks can use them. We promote, obviously, we actually don't have any sort of plastic in the house. We try not to have plastic in the house. Most of it's glass or containers. And so we promote, people using the dishes and things rather than buying something and throwing it away. For the water, we actually have one of these little filters. It's a charcoal filter. Because I personally, I'm not if anyone's out there from Orleans, I'm not a huge fan of the taste of Orleans water. I like Eastham water better. Mine actually comes from my backyard, my well. So we have this filter that we put in the house that makes the water taste nicer and better. And of course, the water there is perfectly safe. And this is just another thing that we can do to encourage people to drink the tap. This year in our welcome packet, I will certainly be including information about the ban. And I'm not sure for this summer because it's not being adopted during the summer, but next summer, we will probably be actually providing guests with reusable water bottles as well, because quite honestly, it's a minimal cost when you're renting a house on the Cape, and it's for a couple $100, it's a pretty minimal cost that we could do that for the summer, and then people will have that available. A couple water bottles that for each family, and again, letting them know about the bans. We'll certainly be doing that this summer.
Jesse, let me ask you one quick question also, because I know a lot of the people who are participating in this conversation are individuals. And I know lots of times we all feel, I'm just one person, I'm just one household, I'm just one rental property. How do we as individuals make a difference in this process that we're going through?
Well, one of the things that when I talk about about plastic pollution and pollution on the beach, marine plastics, is it's one of the things that it is a huge problem, but it's a problem that we all capable of solving because it's solely our problem. It's an individual problem. It's caused by individuals. And so at the individual level, if you have one household that uses clean products, cleaning products, encourages recycling, has water filters, and you promote that, people might be, if you promote that on websites, then other people looking might also join in and say, okay, I want to do that too. And it's really, they're minimal costs. Yeah, it's a little bit more than non-ecological products or paying someone just to take the trash away. It's a little bit more, but it's not a lot. You're talking hundreds of dollars, and over the course of the summer, rentals are making thousands and thousands of dollars. So it's a really small investment to make. And the individual is where the change starts. And I'll just add, in my neighborhood in Eastham, and I don't know if this is the case or not, but we were the first house to go solar in 2011. We live in a little cul-de-sac where it's probably half full-time people and half second homes. And we now have, in the past 10 years, we have 6 other houses on the block that have solar. And, it could be because it's a great deal to get solar, but, I'd like to think it's a little bit, people kept driving by our house every day for years and saw the solar and decided to get it. So an individual can influence other individuals, and that's how we make the change.
It's kind of like water, right? Each drop makes a difference. And pretty soon you have a river, an ocean, and a bay. I want to head over now to Bettina Land. Hi, Bettina.
Hello.
You have real, practical, on the ground, this has been happening experience. So I'm going to hand it over to you and let you share.
Thank you. My name is Bettina Lant. I'm the general manager at the White Elephant here on beautiful Nantucket. We are a seasonal property. We cater to a lot of different people. We cater to couples that come here. We cater to corporate groups. We cater to weddings, families, really a huge spectrum. We open each year in April, and we stay open more or less through the first weekend in December, which is Nantucket Stroll. So when we looked at this single-use plastic ban and how to approach it, first of all, I think what's important to note is that we agreed with it. I can speak for myself that I would go into guest rooms after departure, and it was overwhelming at times to see how many single-use plastic bottles were left in those rooms, either completely empty, partially empty, or barely touched, that would end up being recycled. And it just seemed like something that definitely needed to be addressed. So we agreed with it, but we also had to look at it from a luxury perspective. How do you take something away that is so heavily used, and what do you replace it with, and how does that make sense? So what we did is we looked at different products. We spent quite a bit of time researching this. Anything from, do we get plastic bottles that have our logo on it and give it to the guests and have them refill it? That was certainly an option. Then we looked at doing glass, having it be etched and all this beautiful stuff, and then refilling it. And what we ended up with is really deciding that it also had to be user-friendly. Our guests obviously take things with them when they go bike riding, they take them to the beach, they take things everywhere they go. So how do we give them something that replaces what we don't want to repeat, and doesn't replace it with something that's also going to be a problem for the landfill? So we did have some conversations with the local municipalities to find out what their preferred method was. So what we ended up doing is we found a company called Open Water. So what we do is we sell these water bottles for minimal costs in both of our lobbies. We also provide our guests upon arrival with water bottles of this nature in the guest room. So if you fast forward to the next slide, please. We installed these really pretty, actually, refill stations in our lobbies. So the idea is twofold. The idea is we're giving our guests an aluminum bottle that they can consume. And this particular bottle was chosen because it's entirely aluminum. So it's entirely recyclable, but it's also entirely refillable. That's the second step to this, is we're giving them something that they can then fill up again at the water station if they didn't bring their own. So we're really not imposing on them that they have to buy anything other than this, but we're also giving it to them in the rooms. If they require more, feel free, they're available for purchase. If they want to refill them, we give them the option to do so. It's been a really elegant way to solve this problem for us. So we've been able to successfully implement it. We're also finding that a lot of our guests are traveling with their own water bottles. So they've already addressed it within their families, which is great. If you don't mind switching to the first slide, I did want to touch on this as well. So in conjunction with the single-use plastics ban that we had to embrace, we also looked at our small shampoos, conditioners, and body wash that we gave our guests, because we felt that even though in the initial ban this area was not covered, we couldn't justify taking away water bottles that our guests obviously enjoyed and used a lot, and at the same time provide them with these little tiny bottles of shampoo, conditioner, and body wash, and have that be okay. So we addressed both issues at the same time, and what we did is the company that we have used for many years, which is called L'Occitane, which is a company that provides luxury shampoo, conditioner, and body wash. They had, within their offering, moved to these refillable dispensers, that are attractive, they're refillable, and they contain the same exact product that we had been supplying our guests successfully for many years. So at the same time as providing our guests with an alternative that was very easy for them to get used to pertaining to the water, we were also able to address the fact that we would create thousands and thousands of these tiny little bottles that would end up getting recycled each year. And we were able to eliminate a lot of that by going to this wall-mounted product. And it's been well received by the guest. The transition happened smoothly and coincided with the single-use plastic ban and has been welcomed. And again, it was an easy solution, and we just felt it was the right time to address both of the topics, even though really technically only one of them was required by the ban. So that's how we did it. I have to say it's been very well received by the guests. So we really felt confident in participating in this panel and being able to say that it can be done, and just thinking it through, and it was really well received.
I'm going to ask a quick question to you too. I like the way you made the changes feel almost special and festive into themselves. You know, the attractive metal water bottle, a fill station, not just stick your bottle under a tap, but here's a special place to do it. How much of an impact do you think that had on helping people make the transition, and how difficult was it to create kind of a specialness and purpose of intent for that?
Well, I think it's like anything. You have to think it through the eyes of the consumer, and you want to make it easy on them. So our purpose here is to not put a burden on the consumer necessarily, because that's not the business that we're in. We're in the luxury travel business, and guests come here in order to not have to necessarily actively participate. They have things being taken care of. We don't need them to work that hard at it. So really being thoughtful about where you place these, how you present it. Do you need to purchase maybe a piece of furniture to make it look right? You also want to use the right verbiage, and you don't want them to feel like you're taking anything away from them. In fact, you want it to be a positive. You want to celebrate the fact that we're making this transition, we're making it better for the environment, we're making it easy on you, and we're moving on in the right direction. So it was really positive, and our guests celebrate it. Our staff does too. That's the other part of it. The staff has embraced it, and that's a big consumer is the internal customer as well. So it's really been wonderful.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And now we're going to turn over to Annie Blatz from the Cape and Island Realtors, which are working at a much larger scale than probably anybody else here. And you're really seeing a diversity across the entire region. So I'm really interested to hear what you're experiencing.
Good morning. Thank you for having me today. So I want to speak from two slightly different perspectives. As I was introduced for the Cape Cod and Islands Association of Realtors, I am the 2021 president of that organization. We have about 2,600 members all across Cape Cod and the islands. And so that is our audience, so to speak. We have a large conference center, member service center, where before COVID, we had a lot of educational and community events that would take place there. So naturally, water bottles were part of the drill. We have converted there to touchless water dispensers. And I'm happy to say that we are sponsoring on May 3rd, a beach cleanup day on Martha's Vineyard that our members will be picking up plastic water bottles and other items of litter on the beaches of beautiful Martha's Vineyard. The other hat I wear is I am the broker of record for Kinlan Grover Real Estate, which is a very large company for the Cape. We have 22 offices and nearly 500 agents and staff members. We started our journey toward this goal of being civically responsible, I guess I'll say, 2 or 3 years ago when we made a commitment to transition all of our offices to being green. And that sounds easy from one perspective, but when some of our buildings are 150 years old, it was not an easy task. We had mass save and upgraded windows and heating systems and so forth for greater efficiency. But part of that was that we had customarily had cases and cases of disposable water bottles to distribute to our guests. Cape Cod is, after all, a destination, and we had many, many people coming into our offices and working with our agents who were coming from other places. Many of them had a hot, long day's drive, and they welcomed a water bottle in their hand. So what we found is that we had to get buy-in on several levels. The first level of buy-in was from our own management team. Everyone had to be committed in our 22 locations to creating an environment that was responsible and also in keeping with the laws. And in all those different offices, there's a lot of different variations of the laws. The second level of buy-in was with our own agents and our staff members. And I have found that they too loved the single-use plastic water bottles. And although they were supposed to be for guests, I often saw them with one in their hand as they ran out the door to an appointment. The third level then of buy-in was with our clients and customers, our landlords and guests. Like Jesse's experience with the house that he rents, we have hundreds of rental properties. Some of our landlords are very green, environmentally conscious people and recycle the trash and so forth, and others not so much. So a few years ago, we started the process by supplying the water filtration pitchers to be in all of our rental properties. Going a step further then, we decided that we had to do a little bit more than that. So we eliminated the whole single-use water bottle purchase about 1.5 years ago. We had loved those because they had our logo on them, of course. And we started promoting this kind of a bottle, which is fully reusable, refillable, and recyclable at the end. And it has our logo on it, which was important. I just yesterday ordered another 400 of those for the beginning of our season. Now, even though not all of our towns have a water bottle bill in place, all of our offices are adopting that procedure and eliminating the use of the single-use water bottles. Well, since actually about 1 year ago. And one of the ways that we have to promote that especially is with all of our rental landlords and guests. So we have a welcome package, as Jesse mentioned, and we set them up. We have sometimes in each office, we could have as many as 75 turnovers. So we create water or welcome bags, and we plan to include a refillable water bottle in that bag toward the end of the summer when the ban will go into effect. We have many guests coming after September 1st. So it is also important to educate everyone because most of them are coming from the metropolitan areas of Boston, Hartford, and New York. And they may not be familiar with what our laws are. Well, last year we had a big dose in communications with all the events surrounding COVID, in which suddenly no one was allowed to come, and then they were allowed, and then they weren't allowed, and properties were rented and re-rented depending on where the guests were coming from. So we quickly learned that a double or triple pronged approach to communication was essential. The first and foremost being by email. So we are notifying all of our guests about the water bottle ban. And we will also be notifying them in writing when they get their confirmations and in their welcome package for the guests when they arrive. So we need to really make that commitment to communicate and get the word out so that the people coming from other areas will know what the law is and what is also the civic responsibility of all of us as good citizens of Cape Cod. I'm very hopeful that this will be embraced. I've found that gradually our agents and staff have embraced it. And I think that we'll find our clients and customers and tenants and landlords will as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm hearing some really common themes among everybody. I'm hearing that it's important to realize you're bringing something, not taking something away. And I'm hearing themes of, how communication is important. One of the things I want to ask you, Annie, and partly because of the scale that you're at, it seems that the efforts you're making need to dovetail with the efforts that people like Mary are making at the municipal level. How do you see municipalities and their outreach and organizations such as yours and your outreach coming together?
That is a challenge because, as I said, with 22 offices and 3 of them are over the bridge, every town has a slightly different theme or variation of what they are adopting. So we have to sometimes be at the trendsetters, the models. And we have found that as a fairly large company for our rural environment, people do look to us for guidance and to set an example. And I think that working with the municipalities, that we can be effective in helping these changes occur in our neighborhoods.
Do you have any ideas to that, Mary?
One of the things that we had strategized about, and again, it's important to recognize that we rolled out Drink Brewster Tap. We moved forward with plans for the installation of hydration stations, and COVID interrupted us. So we've basically paused. But one of the things that we had talked about as a major issue was, how do we reach the visitors? We're doing all this messaging that's reaching our residents and people who consume Brewster Town social media, but how do we reach the visitors? And one of the most important ways to do that, once we're done with some of the pandemic regulations, is to connect with visitors who come into town hall to purchase a beach sticker, and who come into town hall to interact with the Brewster Chamber of Commerce, which is in Brewster Town Hall. So we had envisioned that as a location for distribution of the town reusable water bottles, and and outside the door, the rear door entrance to Brewster Town Hall, where the Chamber of Commerce is located, where folks come in to get a daily or weekly beach parking pass. One of the outdoor hydration stations is going to be installed right outside that door. So we saw that as a great opportunity to have something accessible and to show visitors that this is really important to the town of Brewster.
I know there's a lot of questions out there, and Meg has been gathering and sorting them. So I'm going to reach out to Meg and ask if she can share a couple of the questions she's been receiving. Meg?
Sure, thank you, Teresa. So the first, there's a few for Mary, because that was a real campaign actually. And one of the questions was, do you have a way of measuring the effectiveness of the campaign?
Meg, this is a great question, because it's really important whenever you expend time, resources, and money, you need to know what the impact was. So we had conversations about how we could measure this. And in February 2020, we were looking at doing a town survey and distributing it on town social media to ask people, had you seen the Drink Brewster Tap messaging? What did you think of it? Did it change how you view using municipal water versus purchasing commercial bottled water? And of course, the pandemic started and we had to change course. So that's something that I would foresee when we roll this out again. And I think that we could just relaunch Drink Brewster Tap again when we're done with the pandemic and when we're moving forward with the hydration station installations, and look at measuring it that way. I can also mention that several communities contacted us wanting to do their own version of Drink Brewster Tap. And I did, excuse me, phone meetings to lay out exactly what we had done and how we had done it. Really glad to share that information. And interestingly, about 2 weeks ago, so this is a year after the Drink Brewster Tap messages ended, about 2 weeks ago, someone in a Brewster community Facebook group, in a conversation about water quality testing related to PFAS, just happened to mention, hey, and remember Drink Brewster Tap? This was my favorite Drink Brewster Tap message. And they posted a photo of one of the Drink Brewster Tap messages. So that was a great thing to see.
Well, Mary, I do know that a lot of people are very interested in the slides, and I know for the audience that those slides will be included because this whole webinar is being recorded. So you will have access to those slides. Bettina, an interesting question for you. So when you're talking with your clients, did your conversion over to the refillable bottles and handing out the bottles, did that raise any awareness or begin any discussion with any of them with respect to the plastic pollution problem?
I definitely think so. It raises an awareness, especially considering we live on an island and our resources are so precious. They're precious everywhere, but here I think people are much more aware of it. And they were by and large grateful to be able to easily participate in lessening the problem that we're all facing. So being able to provide them with an easy answer, an easy thing for them to adopt quickly was really well received. And I think that it does open up the discussion of, not having infinite resources here.
And then, we're all learning how to use Zoom and webinars. And so, Bettina, I know you answered in the chat box, but I'm not sure that the audience heard the answer to the additional cost. Someone had asked, what was the cost impact when you
Right.
changed?
So these bottles are certainly more expensive than the plastic bottles. One of the decisions we made right off the bat was to limit how we're giving them out for free. The minute that you charge somebody, even if it's a small amount, they will approach the consumption differently. It's how we are. So we're seeing a lot less wasteful behavior and a lot more thoughtful behavior. And that was really our goal. We decided if we're going to make this switch, let's really make it the way that it's going to have the desired outcome and not replace one with the other, and just continue the waste in a different direction. So I think it really did work. Are we still going to get guests that just want a case of water in their room? Of course you do. And then you give them a case of this water and you move on. That hasn't really had a huge negative impact. If anything, it's been really positive.
Actually, I can just interject because I think I'm curious to hear what Jesse thinks about this as well. I'm picturing his image of those big contractor bags full of plastic water bottles, right? We've all seen those. And it strikes me that when we talk about this, we're not just saying we need people to not use single-use plastic water bottles. We're actually asking for a bigger behavioral change. And I'm curious, and Bettina, you touched on that a little bit, if anyone else has any sense of not just transferring people from one form to another, but to changing how we think about treating things so we end up with big garbage bags filled with something. Have you been able to make any changes among your guests, Jesse, of behavioral changes beyond just shifting from one form of waste to another?
No, not. I haven't seen any change yet. But again, the bands, we'll see what happens with the ban in place and with the information in the welcome packet this summer. But I will say to that, I try to get away in the winter to warm places, and quite frequently those warm places are places where they have huge waste issues. And I welcome places. We stayed at a place last year before the pandemic where it was a small tiny island, and the hotel came and they refilled. They had their own filtered water, and because it's the place where you can't drink the water, or you might get sick, and they refilled glass water bottles in your room every day. You could get as many as you wanted, and then we of course filled our own reusable water bottles with that. We never used a plastic water bottle on the island. And I think when you start to see those changes, like at the at Patina's resort in Nantucket, when people start to see those changes, you start to slowly change you hope to expect those changes. Like the more you see them, you hope to then expect them when you go to a place. And when you don't see that, I think people get disappointed. Oh, this place has, I go to a hotel and if there's a water bottle and it's like, oh, there's a water bottle in it, but you start to, more places that make the change, you start to expect that change. And that's how we get, I think, the change in perception and change in behavior.
Back to you, Meg, for some more questions.
Okay, so we've had a couple of questions on which towns exactly have passed the commercial ban. And I can't rattle them off the top of my head. I know that there are several towns that have the ban on their spring town warrant. I believe, though, that there might be 7 that are confirmed for implementation this year. Most of them in September, but I think there's one in December too for some reason. But we can put a list together, and perhaps, Joe, we could make it into a slide and attach it into the webinar. I think that might be helpful because I don't want. Jesse, do you know the answer?
I'm just looking at the Sustainable Practices website, and there's 7 towns adopted the commercial ban at their fall meetings, and municipal was adopted in 13 of the 15 towns. And the 7 towns that last year were Brewster, Eastham, Falmouth, Harwich, Orleans, Provincetown, and Wellesley.
And I do know it is on a couple of the other town warrants this year. We also had a comment, maybe toss out to several, actually all of you could probably answer this. It's ideas for a condo association to solve the single-use problem. So if you have an association, what might you do? Could you take as an example, could you take the Brewster TAP program and pare it down to, a condo association application? Or is there something as individual people, Annie, or individual, you deal with condo associations, I'm sure, is there some guidance that you might provide to this person?
I think that the key to it is communication and education. People will find their way around laws and bans to their own personal convenience unless they really buy in to the fact that we are all responsible for preserving our environment. And I think that's the critical part, is that communicating that and reminding people that if we want to keep Cape Cod and the islands beautiful, we're all part of that, whether we're year-round residents, summer visitors, or part-time residents. So I would say, and doing things like touchless water dispenser in their common areas, I think would be very useful so that they have the convenience of being able to refill their reusable water bottles.
It's like a good practical solution right there, and relatively easy to implement. Teresa, I think we're closing in on wrap up.
That's what I was just looking at the time. I'm keeping one eye here to see, because I'm sure this will be talked about forever. Yeah. And there are lots and lots more questions. And I know this is just the beginning of a conversation, but I'm hearing some themes that are emerging that I think are helpful to us all. I mean, I'm really hearing all of us say, that it starts with the individual, but it takes all of us working together. And I know in other places where these kinds of bans have gone into effect, once some towns start them, kind of the whole region around them tends to end up with them. So there's 7 towns now, right? I fully suspect that most of the Cape and Islands will embrace this. I've also heard the value of role modeling. That comes back to being the individual person, the individual business. By role modeling, we can help bring everyone else along with us. And of course, communication. And that's what this conversation here is all about. How do we information share and start an ongoing conversation? So I want to thank everyone for being here. It has been absolutely terrific. And I'm going to hand it back over to Jill to share a few additional odds and ends and some things that are coming up. Jill.
Green again. I wanted to just bring awareness to the Think Like It's 1620 challenge. If you're not aware of it, it's something that we started as part of the Take Care Cape Cod last year in conjunction with the 400th anniversary of the Pilgrims, and thinking what can we all do that would be simple and easy, but to help bring the Cape and Islands back to what it looked like when the Pilgrims first landed here. So 3 different options of challenge to just get out there and clean up for 60 minutes and 20 seconds a month, or donating $16.20 per month, or a combination thereof. And the again, help make the Cape and Islands look good and clean, and also opportunity to raise money so that we can fund more of the water bottle filling stations, which will help provide some of the solutions if we're not able to purchase water bottles and we're asking people to refill. Then we need a lot more water bottle filling stations around the Cape and Islands. And you can find out more information on the Take Care Cape Cod website. So I'd like to, as Teresa said, thank all of the panelists here. A lot of great information here. We really appreciate you taking the time to be here. And we also appreciate everyone who has been here today and spent the last hour with us. There's going to be a survey that you'll be receiving soon, and we'd love to hear your feedback. How did this go? Did we meet your expectations? And what do you want to hear about in the future? Do we need to have a part 3 and continue this conversation a little bit longer? Or are there other things that are really topical that you'd like to have us put together? We're going to continue to hold our webinars like this until we can actually meet again in person. We did have a couple of our in-person summits at the Cape and Islands Conference Center, and we're hoping to get back there again soon when we can all be together. But in the meantime, we'll continue to work together and share with each other. So on that note, I'm going to say thank you again for being here, and I wish you all a great, wonderful day.
Thanks very much. And just everyone remember that we have a reason to be connected to this place. And the Cape is a beautiful, special environment. And I think we all know that, but sometimes we forget it. And by embracing the kinds of changes we're talking about here today, there's no better way to celebrate this peninsula than by taking these kinds of actions. And I'm so thrilled that people like Jill are working to take the lead in it. Thanks.